The implications of this are frankly nothing short of historic. Over 100 documents that we released on Friday really detail and provide evidence of how this treasonous conspiracy was directed by President Obama just weeks before he was due to leave office.
The number one loser, you know who it is? Barack Obama. Do you know why? Because his voice doesn't carry weight anymore. He was out there begging, screaming, scolding. Everything he did, he no longer carries that weight. Imagine Barack Obama every day he goes to sleep. He remembers that one dinner that he's talking Trump, saying you'll never be president, when he did the angry tweets and all this stuff on Jimmy Kimmel or Jimmy Fallon, and he reads the Trump tweet at him, talking about him. He says, at least you'll never be a president, drops the mic.
He was celebrated as the voice of hope, the smooth-talking savior who promised unity, transformation, and a new political era. Crowds worshipped his soaring speeches. The media pushed the myth, and much of the world eagerly bought the brand. But Patrick Bet-David and Tulsi Gabbard refused to play along. They tear through the carefully polished veneer to expose what Barack Obama truly left behind. Foreign policy chaos, unwavering loyalty to Wall Street, and a legacy propped up by image rather than substance. The illusion doesn't just crack, it collapses the moment truth finally takes center stage.
But think you're Obama, okay? First go from the Obama's lens.
Okay.
Obamas are sitting there having to hear people compare Kamala to Obama.
Crazy.
Do you know what that does to Obama? Do you know Obama is sitting there saying, shut the that's what Obama's saying internally, right?
Director Gabbard, give me your response to what we heard from former President Obama there. He's saying that none of this makes any sense, that this is a distraction. What do you say to that?
It's the art of deflection coming from former President Obama, as well as his friends who are still in Congress today, and Senator Warner and Congressman Jim Himes, really all basically saying that exact same statement, which doesn't actually address the issue that was revealed in great detail in the over 100 documents that we released last week.
And if you're enjoying this video, make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit that bell icon. Barack Obama has always carried himself like a man who strolled into history's VIP lounge and never bothered to leave. The tailored suit, the effortless smile, the perfectly timed pause every third word, as if he were about to deliver the Sermon on the Mount rather than another hollow slogan about hope and change. 4 years, people treated him like the philosopher king of politics, a genius whose very presence would supposedly wash the swamp clean. But when Patrick Bet-David and Tulsi Gabbard start peeling back the layers, the myth doesn't just fade, it shatters faster than Obama's NCAA bracket in March.
The one thing I wanted to show is the following. So you know how you talked about Jerome Powell, what an easy job. You come once a month and he said we're going to increase the rates.
Greatest job there is.
I think this is the one thing they don't talk about. So Barack Obama got elected November 4th. Okay, quantitative easing started November 26th.
Right.
And it stayed for 8 years until you got elected.
Right.
So if you look at that low, pretty much 0% interest rate.
Right.
And then you get elected, right? If you go to January 2016, Rob, for the audience to see that. And then from there, one by one, rates are going up. And then Biden comes in, goes back down to 0 to try to save the economy. And then, the rest is obviously history.
Right.
But do you think the average person knows, like, the impact of going to 0%?
Because beneath the flawless polish stands a man who sold himself as a political messiah, yet delivered more like an overconfident salesman trying to unload a used Honda with a failing transmission and a questionable warranty. Patrick Bet-David calls him out as a brand, not a leader, a walking marketing campaign dressed in soaring rhetoric. Obama wasn't a revolutionary force. He was Apple's keynote speaker in human form, dazzling on stage with glossy promises but offering nothing new once the box was opened. He became the political iPhone launch. Crowds lined up for hope, only to find the same glitches, frozen screens, and broken chargers hidden inside.
Tom, what is the process of Nobel Prize? If he's able to do that, who nominates? Because most of the Nobel winners are on the left.
Nobel Prizes, you can go look this up, are given through an arcane nomination process, and they go into a back room and they decide who they're going to give it to. And the Nobel Peace Prize is basically a political football. You look around the world at people that have really caused peace, and you have Obama made a couple speeches as soon as he was inaugurated in 2009. Oh my goodness, we give it to for fostering an environment of peace.
Tulsi Gabbard pushes the critique even harder. She reminds audiences that Obama didn't merely peddle hollow slogans. He disguised some of the most establishment-serving policies in shiny progressive wrapping. He campaigned on ending endless wars, yet escalated drone strikes like he was running Amazon Prime for precision missiles with next-day delivery. He promised government transparency, then oversaw an administration that aggressively prosecuted more whistleblowers than any before him. Obama didn't dismantle the military-industrial complex. He gave it a fresh coat of eco-friendly paint, slapped on a change-you-can-believe-in sticker, and sold it as moral progress.
Capability to try to impact the outcome of the U.S. election leading up to Election Day. The same assessment was made after Donald Trump was elected by the American people as president in 2016, defeating Hillary Clinton. And it wasn't until after that pulled President's Daily Brief document that the Principals Committee was called in the National Security Council, and President Obama then directed Obama's DNI James Clapper to lead the effort to create this new intelligence community assessment that detailed not if, but how Moscow attempted to influence the outcome of the U.S. election.
And the irony is that Obama is still treated like a political saint. This is the man who built his entire legacy on charisma while quietly rescuing Wall Street, leaving ordinary working-class Americans gasping for real relief. Patrick Bet-David doesn't let that slide. He breaks down how Obama turned yes, we can into yes Goldman can, propping up the very financial institutions that torpedoed the economy in 2008 and nearly sank millions of families. Everyday people lost their homes, their savings, and their livelihoods, while Obama's donor list fattened up like a Christmas turkey on an all-you-can-eat buffet. Hope never trickled down, only Wall Street bonuses did.
Michelle and I couldn't be prouder to endorse you and to do everything we can to get you through this election and into the Oval Office.
Oh my goodness. The words you have spoken and the friendship that you have given over all these years mean more than I can express.
And we're going to have some fun.
You both.
Say it.
It means so much. And we're going to have some fun with this,
That's
too.
right. So obviously, she's not a professional actress.
Tulsi Gabbard dismantles the carefully manufactured myth of the anti-war Nobel Peace Prize winner. Remember, that prize was practically handed to Obama like a participation trophy before he'd even warmed the chair in the Oval Office. And what followed? Escalated conflicts, drone campaigns that turned civilians into mere collateral damage statistics, and a Middle East far more unstable after his watch than before. She highlights how Obama transformed military intervention into a sanitized, almost clinical affair, fewer boots on the ground, more remote-control warfare that made killing feel like a sterile PowerPoint presentation. Patrick Bet-David slices through that illusion by reminding everyone that a polished brand can sell brilliantly even when the product consistently fails to deliver. Obama was like a Netflix trailer packed with inspiring music and cinematic shots, only for the actual series to be tedious filler episodes stitched together with broken promises. His legacy, when the glossy surface is stripped away, is less Camelot and far more cleverly packaged mediocrity dressed up as greatness.
After President Trump had already gotten elected. This is not a Democrat or Republican issue. This is an issue that is so serious it should concern every single American because it has to do with the integrity of our democratic republic. What we saw occur here, as the documents we released detailed, was that we had a sitting President of the United States and his cabinet and leadership team, quite frankly, who were not happy with the fact that President Trump had won the election, that the American people had chosen Donald J. Trump to be the next President Commander-in-Chief of the United States.
Tulsi also underscores how Obama's influence quietly paved the way for the hyper-divisive politics America drowns in today. He claimed to be a unifier, yet his entire strategy subtly thrived on carefully engineered division. Obama transformed identity politics from a passing tactic into a permanent operating system in Washington, ensuring Americans would see one another less as neighbors and more as demographic checkboxes to be managed. Rather than healing wounds, he deepened them with a charismatic smile, convincing half the nation they were enlightened while dismissing the other half as backward relics of history. The bitter irony is that the smug, self-righteous moral superiority created the perfect backlash that made Donald Trump's presidency almost inevitable. Every move was about presentation, how he looked sinking a jump shot, how effortlessly he crooned a line of Al Green, how his speeches would trend on social media. But actual governance, that always came second. Obama was less commander-in-chief and more influencer-in-chief, endlessly curating a flawless reel while ignoring the crumbling feed behind it.
The evidence that we have found and that we have released directly point to President Obama leading the manufacturing of this intelligence assessment. There are multiple pieces of evidence and intelligence that confirm that fact. The implications of this are far-reaching and have to do with the integrity of our democratic republic. It has to do with an outgoing president taking action to manufacture intelligence to undermine and usurp the will of the American people in that election and launch what would be a years-long coup against the incoming President of the United States, Donald Trump.
Tulsi reveals how Obama's obsession with image consistently came at the expense of genuine substance. Under his watch, American foreign policy wasn't strategy, it was theater dressed up as diplomacy. The Libya intervention, marketed as humanitarian protection, collapsed into anarchy, open-air slave markets, and a destabilized region that became a playground for extremists. In Syria, his hesitant half-measures and disappearing red lines delivered neither peace nor clarity. He didn't bring stability, he delivered confusion wrapped in the costume of caution. Meanwhile, his elegant speeches kept audiences applauding like trained seals, blinded by style over results. Patrick Bet-David demolishes the economic myth as well. Wages stagnated, the gig economy exploded, and corporate profits skyrocketed, while Main Street struggled to patch potholes in its own driveway. Obama wasn't the champion of the working class. He was the polished PR spokesman for globalist boardrooms, perfecting the art of trickle-up economics, funneling taxpayer dollars skyward while throwing crumbs, at best, to everyone else. That uncomfortable reality was an inconvenient truth his branding could never hide.
That was an inconvenient truth. The President's Daily Brief article was pulled. It has never been published until we released it about a week and a half ago. Instead, this new intelligence assessment was ordered by President Obama that contradicted directly every other intelligence assessment that had been published prior to the election, as well as assessments that had been pushed forward after the election.
Tulsi digs deep into the hypocrisy behind Obama's polished progressive facade. He preached climate responsibility, yet fracking skyrocketed and fossil fuel production surged on his watch. He promised unprecedented transparency, yet spied on journalists and surveilled citizens like a paranoid roommate guarding a secret stash. He claimed to empower ordinary people, yet left them more dependent than ever on an entrenched system designed to serve only the elites. His presidency became a masterclass in double standards, preaching morality while quietly cashing checks from the very industries he pretended to restrain. Patrick Bet-David and Tulsi Gabbard mock the absurdity of a man who once rallied crowds with grassroots imagery, now sipping fine wine with Silicon Valley oligarchs, signing lucrative production deals to curate and sanitize the narrative of his own history before anyone else can.
Foreign policy related, and it was related to the fact that I had the audacity to go against them, to challenge the elite of the Democratic Party, which is Hillary Clinton, it's Barack Obama, and it's the people who surround them in the military-industrial complex, in the media-industrial complex, those who are pushing, and it's not limited to the Democratic Party.
Obama is remembered less for his actual policies than for the carefully choreographed performance around them. That's why Patrick Bet-David tears through the myth with surgical precision. Performance can always be polished, rehearsed, and endlessly repackaged, but results can't be airbrushed. The reality? A nation more divided, a world more unstable, and a political culture addicted to branding over substance. Strip away the soaring speeches and what remains? A politician who mastered the art of seduction but repeatedly failed the test of genuine leadership. Patrick dismantles the glossy image, Tulsi exposes the deep hypocrisy, and together they reveal how Obama's so-called legacy is smoke, mirrors, and carefully staged photo ops. The truth is harsh but liberating. Worst of all, Obama didn't just fail his supporters, he taught an entire generation that politics is theater, that speeches trump results, and that appearances always outweigh accountability. That's his real legacy, and Patrick Bet-David and Tulsi Gabbard rip it apart until the myth lies shredded beyond repair.
I'm going to go to the next topic here, which is Adam's top topic, talking about Obama saying every man needs a gay friend. So Obama goes
Barack, call me, buddy. Call
on
me.
his wife's podcast, okay? And they're sitting there having this conversation, and it opens, they covered a lot of different things, Right off the bat, they talked about the divorce. Hey, aren't we supposed to be getting a divorce and all this stuff?
Under Obama, the Affordable Care Act became his signature domestic achievement, at least on paper. Yet even that accomplishment collapses under scrutiny once Patrick Bet-David and Tulsi Gabbard rip into it. Marketed as a bold leap toward universal coverage, the law quickly revealed itself as a bureaucratic labyrinth riddled with red tape. Millions still went uninsured, premiums shot through the roof, and small businesses choked under mandates they could barely survive. It was health reform crafted to keep insurance giants smiling rather than to deliver real relief for everyday Americans. Obama strutted around as though he had revolutionized the health system, when in truth he produced a clumsy, government-subsidized advertisement for private insurance companies. Patrick reminds everyone that this so-called landmark reform was more about polished optics than substantive change. The hypocrisy couldn't be clearer. The self-proclaimed champion of the people leaving them with higher deductibles, fewer choices, and a legacy built on marketing spin rather than meaningful progress.
President Obama will go down as perhaps the worst president in the history of the United States! Exclamation point at real Donald Trump. Well, at real Donald Trump, at least I will go down as a president.
Obama has to eat his words for the rest of his life. It's gotta suck. The number one loser of 2024.
Then there's the Iran nuclear deal, another policy hailed as diplomatic genius by Obama loyalists but riddled with holes once examined closely. Patrick Bet-David calls it what it truly was, political theater designed to polish Obama's international image. He wanted to be remembered as the great peacemaker, the deal-maker who could stop war with nothing more than a pen, a podium, and a practiced smile. Yet the agreement was fragile, temporary, and widely criticized for empowering the very regime it was meant to restrain. Billions of dollars were unfrozen, Tehran's influence expanded, and America's allies in the region felt openly betrayed. Tulsi Gabbard underscores the hollowness of that so-called victory lap, pointing out that real leadership demands durable solutions, not a quick photo op to earn applause in European newspapers. And she doesn't stop there. Tulsi highlights how Obama's fingerprints were all over the Biden candidacy, quietly nudging him to the nomination to block outsider threats like Bernie Sanders. For a man who claimed to float above the grubby tactics of machine politics, Obama proved he was the machine itself, pulling levers behind the curtain, bending the party to his will while pretending to stand apart from the swamp.
Just tell me if this seems like they woke up together in the same bed this morning, the last week, the last month, the last 90 days, or if they live in two different places. Just watch this real quick. Go ahead, Rob.
Wait, you guys like each other?
Oh yeah, really? Huh?
That's
The rumor mill.
Yeah, slap that hand.
It's my husband, y'all.
She took me back.
Patrick reminds his audience that this is the same man who once railed against Wall Street, yet now collects six-figure checks from speaking engagements hosted by the very bankers he claimed to oppose. Obama didn't drain swamps. He turned them into private golf courses. His entire post-presidency has become one long cash grab masquerading as intellectual reflection, Netflix deals, memoir deals, high-priced speeches, and endless appearances at luxury events. He transformed himself into the Tony Robbins of politics, monetizing his brand while his followers struggled to reconcile the hope they once believed in with the emptiness they were left holding. Tulsi cuts through the carefully crafted image of a global statesman, showing that the world never saw a steady hand, only hesitation disguised as prudence. Patrick drives home the final verdict. Obama is less a president remembered for tangible accomplishments and more a politician remembered for how he made people feel. But history doesn't reward speeches. It measures results. And when the glow of charisma finally fades, the reality becomes impossible to ignore.